We're live.
Hey, I didn't know we were live. Okay. Okay, how's everyone doing today?
Welcome to episode 002.
Yeah, and we're doing this remotely today. We're not doing it, in person, face to face today, just because today's just one of those days. But
Yeah.
we got to technology that we can
Yep.
do this from anywhere in the world, as long as we have a good Wi-Fi connection.
Yeah, that's true.
Not me.
Okay.
So, well, let's start off.
Do you want to play the song really quick or not?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, we already started talking.
I know, but that's like the intro.
Okay, let me get this going. Business AF folder.
Our infamous Business AF theme song.
You know, I don't even have to
We're dancing.
Hear it?
Okay, great. And we will have, yeah, I could hear it. And we'll definitely have better sound set up as we work out the kinks, but you know, it is what it is, right? Okay, so today,
Oh, there you go.
we're going to, I was muted.
Yeah, were you able to hear that?
Yeah, I heard it.
Okay.
So today we're going to be heavily focused on Chris's business because he is very skilled in what he does, but a lot of the technical background and information that he has in his brain is sometimes overlooked, I guess, by people that are building a business or focusing on a product that they have an idea about. And so we're going to get into some of the background of what UI UX is. And if you have questions, go ahead and ask them in the chat window. But you know, it's 11 o'clock on a Tuesday, so sometimes people are not here. It's okay, you know, if you're watching on the replay or live, that's fine.
You can also leave questions in the comments.
Yeah, definitely.
Back to them.
So, Chris, very simply, if you can describe, can you move your camera? Yeah, if you can describe what UI UX is. I'd really
is a cup of coffee pretty much in the morning. Put out fires. So yeah, let's try to. Sorry, just plug in the battery. So, for people who don't know what UI UX is, and people who are just hearing this term for the first time, or maybe several times, and still don't understand what it is, the simplest way that I can really explain what it is, it's pretty much the process that comes before development, or should be the process that comes before software development on a particular product, whatever the product is. And the reason for that being is because UI UX is the research behind it. UI UX is not even UI UX. UX first comes before.
What does UX stand for?
So UI stands for user interface, and UX stands for user experience. And in like a day-to-day practice as a professional, the UX comes before the UI. So the user experience will come before the user interface. And the reason for that is because the user experience is pretty much the flow of the application, understanding your demographics and users of who's using your product, and doing the research behind that to ensure that the audience that you're trying to reach has a clean and simple way of accessing information on your product and being able to achieve their task efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever the product may be, you know, like some famous ones that invest heavily into UI UX is like Airbnb, Google.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I have almost any large tech enterprise company that you can think of at this point now. And I think we're starting to see that now into also medium-sized companies and even smaller-sized companies with
Mm-hmm.
10 employees or less. Because moving down here to San Diego, I was able to see that there's a market for that from startups to large enterprises. And
Mm-hmm.
but anyways, going back to process is the reason why you want to do UX beforehand is because of what I said earlier. And then, so then what you'll do then is you try to do your demographic research, and then you will try to also understand the business needs of what the business is trying to develop. And then also all the features that are going into the application, and try to identify if those features are important to the business and to the users. Because sometimes the business tries to throw the whole kitchen in there, like
Mm-hmm.
without really
So
starting plumbing.
do you, okay, so I have a question for you because I think that maybe a lot of people don't know when they should start thinking about UX. And what I find in marketing is there's a lot of behind the scenes work for product development and a business rollout and stuff like that. Um, how quickly or how early on in the process of building a business or whatever should they be thinking about this? Is it something that is, I mean, because it's very tech heavy, right? And if you're not tech savvy, like you don't even know where to go or who to ask for.
I think that it should be in the beginning stages of any
Mm-hmm.
business, because it's going to help you in the long run.
Right.
Rather than trying to just, a person with an idea talks to some software developers, and then they get the product finished, MVP,
Mm-hmm.
which means for minimum viable product,
Mm-hmm.
put out, and then they get a lot of complaints because the UX is bad, or the experience is bad, or the functionality is just not quite working. So I think it's very important to have a UI UX designer on board in the beginning with the development team. Uh,
Can
they work
can
hand in hand with each other.
can can you be involved in like let's say they don't have software or they don't have a product, maybe it's like service based. Like is UI UX just as important in for a service based business? Like let's say someone who's a chiropractor and needs a website. Like should they be considering UI UX at all like for their website?
Yeah, I'm glad you bring up a chiropractor. Actually, one of my clients right now owns a chiropractic business. They have 3 offices here in San Diego, and
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, and now I guess the same. So this is the story behind that. So same thing. They had an idea to kind of bring online physical therapy, so like virtual, so you can do your physical therapy at home just by watching videos. But I guess the problem is that their users are older. They're in their 40s and up, 40s to 60s. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't really know how to cater to them, uh,
Mm-hmm.
right, with technology. They just know how to add functionality and just make it work, but they don't know how to make the functionality cater to the actual user, and where should that functionality be catered to and when.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so now they brought me on board to help them kind of reiterate the whole application that they're developing, um,
Mm-hmm.
because they need it, because they're getting complaints that they're
And
getting they're getting good comments that they like what they see, but they want it to, of course, function better for them.
right. And how does that conversation start? Like, how would someone know that they need someone like you? You know what I mean? Like, I think it's.
Unfortunately, I think it happens too late.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I said I think uh, that's why I feel very strongly that the UI UX designer should be in the very early stages of any type of software development phase.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, before he even goes to software development, I think that the person who's creating an idea or a product or a service, that they really bring on a designer on board, because what we do is we're critical thinkers,
Mm-hmm.
and we really try to understand who we're catering to.
Right.
Because the mindset's different, and like our job is different than what an engineer is, software engineer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Not saying that software engineers don't care about users and things like that, but it's just that their understanding or level of it is not
Mm-hmm.
there because they don't do that every day. You know,
Right.
it's
Right.
stuck in code. Where our job is to, be able to go out there and speak to users, be able to develop prototypes very quickly and test it on users and get their feedback and interview them, do video interviews, do surveying, and
Mm-hmm.
A/B testing to pretty much uh, see if our hypothesis is true or not,
Mm-hmm.
to clarify everything that we're creating. And then
So,
we're also listening to the users and not just the business.
mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that I guess depending on what type of product you're building or what, business you're working with, I think it's all part of like the
Yeah,
building phase in terms of, well, especially if you're working with startups, because I feel like people have ideas and then they want to launch them really quickly without doing the research of
right.
what kind of customer development. It falls in line of customer development phase.
Yeah, like for example, I came from last company I worked at. Um, they were like the Google of slot machine gaming in Las Vegas, and
Mm-hmm.
a huge company, about 5,000 employees there. I worked in the systems D&D department, so design and development
Mm-hmm.
research department, and they didn't have a UI UX designer there for like 15 years. It was just all engineers making everything, and they were
Mm-hmm.
getting by, but they were also putting out fires daily
Mm-hmm.
because of all the complaints they were getting. And finally, when I was brought on board, and also not to mention that they spent millions of dollars on people going on site to these casinos and training the employees, because I worked on the enterprise SaaS applications
Mm-hmm.
and training the employees because I
Mm-hmm.
worked on the enterprise SaaS applications.
Mm-hmm.
So so spending millions of dollars on just training users on how to use an application. I think if you have to train users on how to use an application, you have already failed.
That's interesting.
Um, you have already failed. It should be depending on the application. Like if it's um,
So would you say an ideal project would be like an actual software thing that you're building, or like can this be applied to something like a website that is rolling out that's a very it's a simple website, like something like I offer services, right? But like I don't have a product like a software piece or like a portal or anything that people are looking into. Would
just
you say that someone like me needs your services?
yeah, because like for example, if you're trying to put call to action buttons on a page, I mean
Mhm.
it's simple things, but there's a lot of different studies out there. For example, different heat or eye movement patterns that
Mhm.
people aren't really aware of or think of when they're designing. Like one thing I try to avoid is making your eyes having to go in different Z patterns, so going across the screen from left to right so much. Text box sizes should be a certain length. The whole page should be a certain length, because if it goes too far, past like for example 960 pixels, which I think is fine for one
Mhm.
page, but if you try to go to like 1920 pixels
Mhm.
page and your text is going all the way across that, it's just getting too long, right? And then also the
Yeah.
color, that should be gray, should be black on the contrast. What's the hierarchy of the information you're really trying to
Right.
get through this? Um,
Right. I think it's funny because like I never considered myself a UI UX designer, but like those are very key things when I'm building like a starter website for a client, like something that they just need up. Um, they have, they have like a Wix template or something that's like not built from scratch or anything, and they've put like their buttons like different formats, or like their text is black and then their buttons are black, so there's no like
that comes to the UI.
yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's just like for me, like as a person, visual person, like I want to see where the call to action is. Like I want my eye to go there. And I understand that as a user. But then, some people don't realize like that is built into like the stuff that we know
Yeah,
and why, it's good to like involve someone who has experience in that.
yeah, because even if it's a simple call to action button,
Mhm.
people can miss that. And if that's like if you're, for example, it's your contact information, and your sole way of getting clients is for people to contact you through email
Yeah.
or phone number, and if they miss that, I mean, it's simple to me. I don't know about to others, but
Yeah.
if you just place it in the wrong place on screen and it's missed, I don't know,
Mhm.
30% of the time, that's 30% of people that you're not
Mhm.
triggering. Um,
Right. And I think I mean, I for so long had like my brand colors, which are like navy and like light peach and white. Um, and my buttons were the same as my text. And so there was like no, there was like fluidity throughout. So everything was branded, but the call to actions were not standing out.
right.
So I had to add another like light blue as my button because even though it didn't fit within my brand guide, my brand, my branding and my colors, it had to stand out from that because everyone always knew like, okay, navy blue and like light peach and white are you. Now, like, you need something that like pops out of that. Like, even if it's just like contact me or book now or download this thing, it's that's something I think a lot of people don't think about when they're building their website or their product.
Not at all.
Um,
I need to be honest.
I
And
mean,
and sometimes you have to try, or at least my job. I feel like it's my job to try and kind of steer the car in the right direction for
mhm,
my clients, or
mhm,
even the business, or even at like the companies where I worked at. Sometimes they don't understand it.
yeah,
They just don't. And because at this point, it also like a designer is also one of those things that like either you have it or you don't. And it also comes with intuition and also years of.
mhm,
And if you're speaking to an engineer about
mhm,
the decision that you're making, they're just kind of like, mm, like, is it yes or no, zeros or ones, like kind of like the
mhm,
logic that goes to software development. Um, they just may not understand it, or the VPs or the executive staff, they might understand it, but they should be able to trust your intuition on what you're doing. And actually, for example, like I was saying, like I was working at that company for the last few years and a couple years, and I was able to save them over $3 million per year worth on training because I was able
wow,
to design the applications in a way that it required less, and
right,
they didn't need to go on site anymore as often
mhm,
to train their employees on how to use the application because of the methods that I used. Not that
right,
I'm saying I'm the best designer or anything out there. It's just I was able to see real results in what I'm doing. So,
yeah.
mm,
Um, okay, that brings up a point because like I was looking for an app recently, like a creative app, and I couldn't find the one that was on iPhone or whatever. I have a Google phone, so it's Android. And I was downloading a few apps, and then I would go in, and it wasn't intuitive for me to like know how to use it. And I'm a creative person, and I have so many apps on my phone. I ended up just deleting it and like
they lost a user.
uninstall. Like they lost a user that may be brand loyal to them if it was like a good app. And like there's, what apps come to mind? Like when, I mean, you mentioned Airbnb. What apps come to mind when of apps that you've seen change and like, that they're actively investing in UI, UX?
Mhm. Right, exactly. And I mean, and Airbnb has other competitors too, but there's a reason why some of these people reach the top, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what they've
Right.
done in.
And why do you think that why do you think that, like, I mean, we mentioned users, right? Like, so they lost me as a user. Why is that important?
Because the business has money.
Yeah, right.
That's money that they lost. Like if maybe you're using the free version, but if they have a version that's $1 a month or $2 a
Hmm.
month subscription or $1 per year, um, maybe you like the free features. And you're like, hey, maybe I really like them enough to buy their service.
Hmm.
You do that, right? And then you pay for it, and then
Well, I think it,
and then they gain money, and then they also cater to your
hmm
needs, and then also it's very important for the company to listen to your feedback because there's
hmm
a lot of people out there that give feedback.
right.
There's a lot of people that don't, but it's very important to listen to the ones that do. Um,
Yeah. I think that brings to mind like, the apps where you use to like ride the scooters and like how there's like Lime and Lyft and Bird. I
mhm,
think right now I don't think there's any other ones. But like it really is based on like user experience. Like how easy is it to book that scooter?
yeah,
And like I have a friend who is loyal to Lime because they like their app better than Bird. It has nothing to do with like the functionality of the scooter, but it definitely is keeps them using Lime over Uber or Bird, right? And like when it comes to investors, now if an investor is looking at these apps, they're going to look at users on Lime and then users on Bird and then users on Lyft and then figure out like why should we invest in all three of these apps if they're the same or in these businesses, right? Why do we want them to grow? So it is very important. It's like keeps people I guess on your app longer. Same with like Facebook. Like if Facebook started having a really crappy app, like people wouldn't be on it
exactly.
and then they lose money.
Yeah,
So
and Facebook, you can argue that it's not the greatest app anymore,
no.
but it's one of the
But
very
I think that's like algorithm based, but that's another story.
yeah, and I think now they just put too much in it.
Mhm.
It's not what it was, but that's a business call more than like a UI UX call.
Right,
But to say
exactly.
that, and it can be improved definitely. I mean, there's always room for improvement. That's the thing. Like if Facebook was a hire me right now, I would go in and try to tear the place up because I think it can be done better, and there's just better ways of doing it. Not to say that it is, but I would definitely fight for it.
Yeah.
What I believe in and that I think can uh,
Okay.
enhance the
I,
business.
I have a very important question for you. So what app have you deleted because of poor UI UX? Do you know anyone? Because you're a UI UX person, so
For example, I deleted the Bird app actually.
you did. Oh
Yeah,
my god.
and it was mainly because I mean this was like it was a few months ago at least, and
Mhm.
uh, it's because you needed to put at least a minimum of $10
Mm.
in the app, and before you didn't have to, and
Right.
it was in such a rush at that time
Yeah.
where I didn't want to like hook up all my accounts at that moment and put that in. And then I use Lyft, and then Lyft's app is actually better
Yeah.
than Bird's app. Um, Bird is more popular, and also the thing is that was a bad user experience for me. I'm not even talking about the UI. I'm just talking about the whole experience of making me, and that's a bit. I'm sure that was from the business and not from like the
Mhm.
product team that wanted to put that feature in there.
Right. So like in order to sign up for Bird, you have to like put a minimum of $10, right? But
Yeah,
like you couldn't even ride the scooter until you put that minimum
yeah.
$10.
Yeah, and then I saw a Lyft scooter right next to it. I'm like, well, okay, well, I'm just gonna go right ahead and just
Yeah.
connect right now and just have it take money out of my account,
Mhm.
and I'll just ride the scooter where I need to get to.
For like $2 or $3.
Because the reason why I'm riding a scooter is because I need to get somewhere. I'm
Yeah.
not I'm not riding a scooter because I'm doing it for fun. Like I'm
Mhm.
because I need to get from point A to point B, and I want to get to point A. I want to get from point A to point B as quickly as possible.
Right. Exactly.
Um, and that's part of
Well,
the experience.
Yeah, bringing it back to like websites and stuff, I think that you know, the amount of clicks you need to get to like where you need to go also becomes part of the experience.
Yeah, exactly. Like one thing that we were seeing a lot for a long time is just virtual scroll, where everything's just in one single page,
Oh yeah.
scrolling, 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 and that was like the best thing ever. You know,
What
why
was the name of that?
virtual
Okay.
scroll?
Oh, there was another name that I knew of, but
Long scroll.
hmm. Anyways.
What was I saying with that? So and still people are stuck on that, but I think scrolling too much is just too much.
Mhm.
There needs to be a balance between scrolling and switching between pages
Mhm.
at the right moment. Depends what your task is. It's like
Right.
an application. Um, if you're doing a form, like for example, when you're filling out an application,
Mhm.
and then they'll ask for your work history and they want like the last 10 years.
Mhm.
Can you imagine a whole page going through all that?
Yeah.
Then be broken up.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's like when you apply for a job, like in person, and then they hand you like a 10 piece of page or like a packet of 10 pages, and you have to fill that out. You're like, bye. Like you walk out, you know, because
Exactly.
it's a lot of work to do all
Depends
that.
how much you want your job, but
Hmm?
it depends how bad you want that job.
Oh
Right?
yeah, true, true, true.
Yeah, but I definitely think that that's just like a quick
Mhm.
thing I can think of, like where you shouldn't have like a long page scroll. And because that was like the biggest thing. Like I just had a client right now, not right now, but like maybe a couple months ago, talk to me and saying, "Yeah, let's just put everything in one page and one long scroll." I'm like, no, it's just too much. Like
Yeah.
I was getting into the whys on why you shouldn't do that with them,
Mhm.
and finally, like after going a few rounds on trying to explain that to them, then arguing back with me, uh, we were able to steer away from their idea of having it like that, and then going with what I did initially, and
Mhm.
working out fine.
So I have to ask you. So when these conversations are happening, is this before or after you've already like landed them as a client, or is a lot of this done prior to you know, during your sales process in terms of showcasing what you can do? Because
Uh,
someone
I,
asked me that yesterday, like, can you give out free stuff like for what you do? Because we're very like service based businesses. Um, and I guess I'll answer that too, but I want to know like how much of your process is done, like how much can you do before you actually start getting paid? Like,
I do research for
mm-hmm,
sure. I don't do any mock designs unless they ask.
mm-hmm,
And now I'm starting to, because mock designs can take a while too. Like that takes,
mm-hmm, right.
and I don't want to spend my time doing that and then giving the client an idea,
Mm-hmm,
uh, kind of like an answer to the question, and they go off and maybe take that and do it on their own, without
right.
myself in that situation. And then, so I think that time should be valued. Maybe I should get paid even just a little bit for that
Mm-hmm,
if they want me to do that. Because I've been doing that lately, and I'm just starting out. But uh, I think it's important to value your time, and I don't think that you should be giving out anything for free. If you talk
yeah,
to very successful people, they always tell you don't do it for free.
yeah.
You know,
And I
invest
think
for
for
that.
me, like in order for me to properly give analysis, and you know, there's a lot of research, like you said, for me looking at a client's account, me looking at their code, me looking at their analytics and stuff, like I need access to their existing accounts.
Yes.
And unless we have a contract or unless we have like some type of agreement in place or they've paid me for a certain amount of time, like it's very difficult to even do something or put something together if you don't have access to that stuff. Like, because I'm gonna use this analogy because it came into my brain last night and I started really trying to leverage it. Is like the iceberg, right? Like we are both icebergs But like you see the top of the water, like you see all that, like you see a nice website, it's like user friendly, or you see like their content on social, they have a presence, it's online presence, they're online like us. But the bottom part is all the stuff that goes into like what makes it look good and what makes it function well and load properly and all of that. So it's very important to understand that there's a lot of different layers to tech. Um, and so really finding out, when if you have a product or a business and you're not sure about where to start, just have conversations with experts or people in your network to figure out what you really need, and value that person's time, because their knowledge is based on all of their work in terms of whether it's school trained or business trained, in companies or on their own. And it's not stuff that they can just like Google and then figure out. Like, yeah, we might learn by Google. I've learned by Google. I've learned by my peers, but like it's all in my head too. And I can't articulate that if I don't have a conversation and start really showing um, what I can do, outside of just some pretty images on social media.
Yeah. And in your case, I'm trying to figure out like, because with UI UX design, if a client asks me to give them like a case study or something of that nature, I can show them something.
Yeah.
With you and digital marketing, I feel like it takes time to show something.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't happen overnight. Like I could design a screen in an hour or less, but you can't really show.
Right.
You really can't show anything in that amount of time, right? The client needs to hire you for over a month, I'd say, to really see some results.
Yeah.
So
hey, what happened to your video?
My video?
Yeah, it's gone.
Oh no. So,
okay, there you are.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that is super. Like, I wish I had an image to show you because I have one. Let me try to pull it up. So basically, I don't want to take too much more time because I think we've talked about UI UX a lot, but there's a lot of like I just implemented an ads thing for a client, and there was on their website the code was implemented, and the code there was like duplicate code that was basically canceling out a JavaScript thing, and it basically did not allow the data to be collected on the Google Ads campaign. So the campaign was saying it's not working. Meanwhile, I would look at the source code of the website and I could see it, but there was 2 places that it was placed. And so it was basically canceling out the actual code so it can record all the data. And now this is like something that's not like me creating like a social media image and putting it up on their social page, but it's related to like their ads campaign, which is social media and everything else that we're doing, like driving traffic to their website and all of that. But you can't, like, that's not stuff you can really learn. I have to have access to their website. I have to have access to the Google Ads account. I have to like also reach out to my network. Thankful that I have like a lot of people that are ads experts. And I talked to 3 different people, and it wasn't until I actually talked to a JavaScript coder that like we really figured out the problem, and it's like it took 2 weeks to figure out, because you're like using people's time and kind of figuring out, trying not to spend too many hours. And thankfully I was able to like figure it out. But like that's time. Now that I understand it, it's great, because I'm like, if this issue ever happens, or like I know to put the right code in when I'm building a website, if I'm building a website from scratch, or I'm working on a project like that, because it's not.
And that happens all the time with code. Like, because I had to learn or I don't have to, but I wanted to teach myself how to code my designs to life.
Yeah.
And I was able to, but going through that process like I saw that happening in my code all the time in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then you still see it like in professional world where code cancels each other out. Also because maybe you have different developers working on it, and then they just have
Right.
the first initial code correctly and just end up canceling that out and didn't do their due diligence. And that's another thing. Like for example, like we do not just UI UX, but PixelLyft. We also do custom software solutions. We do
Mm-hmm.
JavaScript, we do Angular, we do .NET, we do Java, we do Objective-C, Swift, and
Uh,
blah, blah. You go down the line. I mean, 'cause it all becomes similar.
yeah.
And HTML, CSS, of course. Uh, but when you have people coming into uh, as a client, when you have a new client coming on and they already had a previous development team working on their product, my job and also my team's job is to make sure that we look through the code first and make sure we understand everything before we even write anything.
Mm-hmm.
Last thing we need to do is add more unnecessary code to what's probably already there. So
Right.
I want to clean the house pretty much before even adding new furniture to it.
Right. Yeah. So I'm showing this image because I kind of had to like map it out. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
Just to get it out of my brain because my brain was like it was going crazy with all of this information in my head. But like this up here, I don't know if you can see my cursor on the top right is like the pixel code, the Facebook pixel analytics. Like this, whenever I'm building a website, it must be in there already. Like I have to put it in there. Like even if we don't plan to do ads because they launched the website 6 months ago and never put it in, and now they want to do ads, and it took us 2-3 weeks to like get it resolved because the person didn't put the code in the beginning, right? And like when you're doing this whole like social media campaign with posts and driving traffic to the website, you can see like the top part is the social media posts, and then each one drives traffic to the website right here. Hold on. Right here. And then, you're gathering the data with the pixels and stuff like that, and then you can start doing ads. Like if you don't have all of these like all working together from the get-go, then your ads will never be successful. And this is just remarketing ads. There's obviously different ways. But like I wanted to showcase this because it was part of the example. I mean, this is not the best looking image, but it's what I had in my head. And I'm like, okay, this is how I can explain it to people. If you don't have all of these things working together, then you're not going to be successful. You start gathering data in month 1, then maybe you ramp it up, and then in month 3 you adjust. So it's minimum you have to at least invest the time into seeing what works,
Mm-hmm.
and take that time. Like you can't just do one social media post and then hope that your ad is successful, because if they're not correlating, then what's the point? So
It's like a cycling process.
mm-hmm. And this is what people see: 1, 2, 3. That's all they see.
Mm.
They don't see any of this at all. Like your users or even sometimes people within the company, they don't see any of that.
And this isn't even everything. This is just
Yeah.
like a high level understanding
Right.
of
Right.
what it is.
Right. Exactly.
And to lower level information, oh my god, I could only imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Just even like FB Pixel itself.
Yeah. Oh
How
yeah.
much goes into just that, and then you have your Google. How much goes into that?
Mm-hmm.
That's why you're talking about the iceberg, because that's
Mm-hmm.
exactly it. You just
Mm-hmm.
see this, but you don't see. I mean, you
Right.
see this much, but then like you don't see like the big giant ball of information and like designs or analytics that's being used or code.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
And it's
Well.
just like an application too. Like people
Mm-hmm.
just see it work, but then
Right.
see the code behind it.
Right.
See the
Exactly.
thousands and thousands and thousands of lines of code that go behind
Mm-hmm.
just being able to sign up and pay for something.
Right. Exactly. Well, I think that we've talked a lot about UI UX. We could probably do whole nother show on it and show some examples. But it's been 40 minutes, so I kind of want to let you go. I know we're busy on work today. We're busy scheduled, so I think next week we're going to bring a guest in. So we have 3 people lined up. So
yeah, I'll be virtual.
Yeah. Well, we can do virtual again, like this.
Yeah. If you want to meet with them in person, up to you.
No, it'll be virtual.
Okay.
Yeah.
For sure.
So if you are watching this on the replay, or if you've joined us even for a little bit on live, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube. We are obviously growing this. It's a passion project for Chris and I, and we hope that you learn something about UI UX and what our skill set is. You can also subscribe to us on Instagram, and that's how you do it, right down there. Oh, I can point down there. Yeah. And we hope that you learn something, like I said, about UI UX. And if you have any questions, or you want to learn about our businesses, or you want to share your story and showcase what you do, like under the water of the iceberg, then definitely let us know, and we'd be happy to have you on.
And also, please share and support us.
Yes.
We'd really appreciate that, and leave comments, and we will talk to you ASAP.
All right. Well, I hope you have a good day, Chris, and I'll talk to you soon.
Definitely.
Okay.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Leaving studio.
Oh, put that music on.
Word.
Bye.